On October 8, 2019, residents of Cape Coral, Florida, noticed something unusual. In the vacant lot behind the Sam's Club store, a gruesome discovery was made in the bushes. The lifeless body of a woman was lying there. Her face was bruised, her nose broken, and her ribs crushed. She appeared to have lost her life hours ago. Terrified, the residents of the city immediately called the authorities. At that moment, a terrible secret that no one could have predicted was about to be revealed. The identity and death of this woman was the beginning of events that would shake the city's inhabitants to their core on a gloomy night. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel, so you'll be the first to know the most terrifying and mysterious stories. Now, let's get to the bottom of this horrifying event. Wade Wilson was born on May 20th, 1994, in Tallahassee, Florida. He and his family were struggling to survive. His parents felt inadequate to raise Wade. However, little Wade's path was not long. His parents gave Wade to Steve and Candy Wilson, whom they knew. The Wilsons were a couple known in their community as sweet and kind. Along with their biological child, they raised Wade as their own. From the first years of his life, little Wade showed himself to be a cheerful and highly intelligent child. However, the problems he faced became a big problem, not only for him, but also for his family and his environment. As he entered adolescence, changes in his behavior and mood attracted his parents' attention. Wade constantly told his father that he felt that he was being spied on, and that someone was in the garage of the house. He took it seriously enough to call the police one day. His parents decided to take Wade to a psychologist. However, young Wade continued to drift from school to school with his rebellious behavior. At Lauren Chills High School, his friends at school saw him as a fun, but somewhat troublesome boy. He was often disinterested in his studies, spending his time with his girlfriends and smoking cigarettes. When he used marijuana in the restroom and set fire to toilet paper, he was expelled. Wade's behavior not only didn't change, it got worse. By the age of 18, he disappeared, stealing money from his parents. Years later, he tried to reunite with his biological family, but he didn't want a healthy relationship. He only asked them for money to buy a car. Around that time, he had 3 accidents, and his car became completely unusable. Steve and Candy Wilson were still hopeful about adopting Wade. They lived a wealthy life in a beautiful home and wished for the best for their son. However, although everything seemed perfect on the outside, Wade's life was rapidly decaying. The emptiness inside him grew bigger and bigger every day. Wilson's encounters with the law date back to 2012. He was leading a life in Leon County, starting with petty offenses and becoming increasingly involved in more serious crimes. That year, he was involved in burglary, assault, and firearms offenses, and had his first serious encounters with the law. But this was only the beginning. In November 2013, Wilson was charged with serious crimes. He was convicted of burglary and grand larceny and sentenced to prison. During his time in prison, Wilson's harsh and his passionate nature became more pronounced. By the time he was released from prison in September 2014, he had become a more dangerous member of society. The year 2015 was another turning point for Wilson. A woman accused him of sexually assaulting her in his car after a party. There were even accusations of kidnapping. However, these charges were eventually dismissed by a jury, and Wilson was found not guilty. However, this remains a stain on his criminal past. In 2017, Wilson's dark past came to light once again. This time, he was arrested again, this time for stealing firearms, and sentenced until July 2018. Here too, Wilson showed his passionate and aggressive nature. Over time, he was implicated in the conspiracy to murder Denise Williams' husband in 2018. During this period, some allegations were made against Wilson, suggesting that he was involved in the crime. He was even said to have tried to fabricate evidence and offered to kill Williams. 2019 has been an eventful year for Wilson. In February, his ex-girlfriend alleged that Wilson attacked her and tried to strangle her. Initially charged with kidnapping and rape, Wilson was able to get out of those charges due to lack of evidence and a current no-contact order. However, the story did not end there. On July 1, 2019, Wilson was arrested on a battery charge. This criminal history was just one of several incidents that show what a dangerous individual he is. October 7, 2019 was a dark turning point for Wilson. That night, within hours, he destroyed 2 lives and fully unleashed the monster inside him. His first victim was Christine Melton. Wilson had met Christine in a bar. Later that night, the 2 strangers seemed to find something different in each other's eyes. Wilson invited Christine to his home. At first, everything was quite normal. The 2 of them chatting together, enjoying an evening full of songs. But in Wilson's mind, a dark plan began to take hold. At that moment, cold-blooded and calculating, he decided to trap his victim. When they were alone in the house, Wilson suddenly lunged at Christine. Before she knew what was happening, Christine felt Wilson's hands on her throat. In shock and struggling, Wilson's pressure was so strong that with each breath she was dragged one step further into the darkness. Christine's hands tried desperately to free themselves from Wilson's grasp, but in vain. As she struggled with terror and suffocation, Wilson's expression was stoic. There was no remorse in his eyes, only an empty mood. In the end, Christine remained immobilized and Wilson felt compelled to brush her off to dispose of her body. Unfazed, Wilson left the house, leaving Christine's lifeless body behind. But his cold-bloodedness did not end there. That same night, he planned to take another woman's life. Wilson's next victim was Diane Ruiz, a bartender and mother of 2. Wilson used a fake story to trap her and lured Diane into Melton's car. The icy smile on Wilson's face was an extremely dangerous signal the moment Diane arrived. Diane did her best to avoid becoming a victim, but she was powerless to stop Wilson. When Diane confronted Wilson, everything suddenly changed. As Wilson began to choke Diane, she repeatedly tried to hit his hands and push him away with her elbows. In panic, she tried to scream, but Wilson, in cold blood, frustrated her efforts. The more she resisted, the more violent Wilson became. As the pressure on Diane's throat increased, she tried to breathe one last time, but Wilson's rigid grip became more and more deadly with each passing second. Eventually, Diane's life ended, but Wilson's cruelty did not end there. At that moment, in Wilson's rage, he repeatedly tortured her corpse. Each mark on her body was a reflection of Wilson's dark inner world. The brutality inflicted on her was like a symbol mixed with Wilson's blood. Even though the woman was dead, something else was killed with her humanity. Before calling it a night, Wilson immediately confessed to his father on the phone, not thinking he could tell anyone what he had done. "I killed them both, my father. I killed them both." He said it coldly, the words coming out like steel. He told his father how deep his dark inner emptiness was, without any regret about the motivation behind what he had done. These murders were the traces of a terrible storm that had erupted in his soul. He told his father that he was ready to do it again. Wilson's cold-bloodedness, his lack of remorse after committing his crimes, was appalling. His mental state was like being stuck in a terrible vacuum. The murders were not only acts for him, but also a kind of release. With Tonight, Wilson had deepened this dark void. During Wilson's trial, evidence of his mental health, brain scans and trauma tried to explain his impulsive behavior. But the prosecution argued that drug use was a more influential factor. Wilson's biological father, Stephen Testaceka, confessed to his son's crimes and shared shocking details. The jury recommended the death penalty for the two murders, and the judge accepted the recommendation. Wilson's case sparked widespread public debate about the intersection of mental health and criminal behavior. Some sympathized with his mental health, while others focused on the brutality of his crimes. The media drew attention by associating Wilson's name with the famous Deadpool character from Marvel Comics. This similarity between Wade Wilson and Deadpool has confused many and caused mixed feelings among the public. Some people saw this as a coincidence, while others linked Wilson's violent past to the character Deadpool. Deadpool is a character known for his chaotic and anarchic behavior, and Wilson's criminal past paralleled this chaos. While awaiting trial, Wade Wilson received conspicuous tattoos in prison, including a swastika under his right eye. In 2020, he and his cellmate were charged with tampering with a window in a plot to escape. As the mastermind of the escape plan, he also reportedly tried to arrange a getaway car. In 2023, he pleaded not guilty in exchange for dropping charges for smuggling drugs into prison. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison and a fine for this offense. He also survived an overdose in the Lee County Jail that same year, after which the conspiracy to smuggle drugs into the jail was exposed and other people were charged. Wilson's life in prison continued to demonstrate his ability to commit crimes and his attitude to rules. His crimes and subsequent escape attempts raised questions about how far he should be isolated from society. To end this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content.